my channel where I post weekly videos about life living in a converted school bus. So this week I wanted to make a short video talking about some things that maybe you want to consider before making the move into bus life. Something that's really important to think about if you're going to be traveling in a converted school bus is, can you drive this thing? So a school bus is a really large vehicle. And if you're somebody like me who's driven small two-door cars for their entire life, it's quite a big difference driving a giant school bus. Thankfully for me, my husband does most of the driving. So really, I only drive on long, straight roads where there's not a lot of turns and no climbing in the mountains. So I definitely suggest, if you've never driven anything that's quite so large, maybe give it a try before you purchase a bus. Or if it's possible, if you can downsize even more, maybe try to get into a shorty or even a Sprinter van. And driving isn't the only thing that can be challenging if you have little experience driving something so large. Parking can also be incredibly difficult. So for me personally, whenever I stay somewhere, I make sure that it has pull-through parking available so that my husband or I aren't trying to back into any small spot. So this is just something to think about if you don't have a lot of experience driving these large vehicles. And a third component about driving is that you do need a special driver's license if the school bus is not yet registered as an RV. So a lot of people sell buses that have just got the seats taken out, that they're already registered as an RV, so then you can drive it from point A to B to work on the conversion. Or if you do have a CDL or know somebody that has a CDL, you can get the bus and then deal with switching the registration over later. Another thing that's really important to consider before making the move to bus life, and this applies whether you're going to be traveling full-time or parked full-time, is that a lot of RV parks and campgrounds don't allow buses. They usually have a standard year that the vehicle has to be created in, and a lot of the buses are too old for certain parks. So especially if you're going to be permanent in one location, you really want to make sure that your bus is allowed. Let's say you're still going to work, you don't work from home, and you want to be within a certain distance. You just want to make sure that your state A allows for tiny homes or buses, and B, that whatever campground you're looking for also allows it. Something else that's really important to consider is how the bus is registered. So even if you do have a CDL, and it doesn't really matter for driving purposes, if you have the vehicle registered as an RV instead of a school bus, it's going to save you a significant amount of money every year on insurance. So it saves me hundreds of dollars per year just having it registered as an RV. Sometimes it can be kind of tricky to switch the registration from school bus to RV, and the requirements are different per state. A lot of times you'll have to make an appointment with the Department of Transportation, drive the vehicle there while they do an inspection, and usually the requirements involve running water, a kitchen, and a bathroom, but the requirements are different per state. There are some states where you can still do your registration process online. So West Virginia is one of them. So a lot of people do take that opportunity and just register their vehicle in West Virginia, especially if they're nomadic and they don't really have a permanent address. Another consideration is, are you mechanically inclined? So for me, I am definitely not mechanically inclined. And with these older buses, sometimes even mechanics don't necessarily know what the problem is. In fact, some buses are so old that they can't be plugged in for diagnostics. Last month, I was driving to New Mexico, and all of a sudden the bus started running really, really slow. I didn't know what was wrong with it, nor did my husband. Every time we would stop, then it would start again going faster, but after about 20 minutes of driving, we couldn't go over 40 miles per hour, which became really frustrating when you're trying to go a couple hundred miles in a day. we finally found a mechanic shop, and they assumed that the diesel was a little bit dirty and had clogged the filters. So they changed 2 filters and the oil pressure sensor, which had a crack in it. And the next day, everything was going great. We paid the bills, $500 bill. We were on our way back to the final destination. And after about 3 hours of driving, the same problem started happening again. So the next mechanic that we stopped at, luckily the head mechanic there had a history of working on older vehicles, and he knew that there was actually a third filter that is no longer on newer diesel vehicles. So he took the third filter out and just cleaned it, and boom, problem solved. We were on our way, we made it there and back with no more problems. So it is a little nerve-wracking driving around without knowledge of the mechanics of how the vehicle runs. So it's just something to think about, especially if you're going to be traveling a lot, right? Make sure that you have the money to take care of a mechanical problem if one does unfortunately come up, which it will eventually. Okay, and the last thing that I think everyone who's about to make the move into bus life should consider, um, right, which is probably the most obvious thing, is just that if you're moving in with somebody, you are going to have a major reduction in privacy. Okay, so if you're moving in alone, you can have all the privacy in the world. You can drive the bus up into the mountains. Sometimes you won't even have cell phone service, so you have privacy from the world, from your phone, from your email, which is great if that's what you want. So for my husband and I, reduction in privacy was no problem at all. We did have to do a little bit of scheduling changes when at the beginning of 2020 when we both started working from home. So I used to be gone almost all day every day, and now I'm home. So we sort of share the working space in the bus, and everything works out. But if you're a person that likes to, have your alone time, you're not really going to have that in the bus unless you pre-arrange something where you get an hour of alone time to yourself, or however you want to work it out. But it's just something to really think about before making the move. Okay, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye.